What's up, nerds? What's up, IDP Army? It's your man, Jordan Rains, at 50 Shades of Drunk, if you're on Twitter. We're back. Our third installment of In My Defense on the Dynasty Nerds YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe, make sure you share, make sure you leave a comment. Tell me what's up. How y'all been since last time I saw you? Gonna drop some IDP goodness on you. Season is close to wrapping up. We just finished up week 12. We were rolling into playoff season, week 13, and then we got playoffs coming up. Hopefully, you're gonna win some titles, win some that Nerd Herd love. I got my Nerd Herd hoodie on. Y'all go check out the merch store. They got some good stuff over there. I mean, this thing's nice. Ain't gonna lie to you, it's nice. Shout out to the Nerd Herd. But like I said, we're going to do, kind of what we did last time or the last couple of times. If you have been joining us, we will be doing the, we'll be doing the leaderboard. And we'll be looking at some of the injuries and then the trending up. Some guys maybe were trending down, and then we'll cut it out. Once the season is over, the shows will be a little bit different. A little bit more focused. It's trying to hit a lot of things in a couple of weeks right now on the channel. Just to give you guys an idea of the landscape of the fantasy football world from an IDP perspective. My article that accompanies this video will be on the Dynasty Nerds website. That is the IDP quarterly report. Wrote you all a little message at the end of that, kind of, just go check it out. You'll see what's up. But yeah, a lot of those guys that you'll see I'm talking about on this will be mentioned in that, but you'll probably get a little bit more here, just because you have my voice, you got me, vibing, talking about my players, my guys, talking to you guys about how the season's been going and what we're looking forward to, and looking back on what has been. Before we get going, obviously we want to preface it with everything on Dynasty Nerds is under the default scoring of IDP 123. That is 1 point for quarterback hits and assisted tackles. That's 2 point hits for solo tackles. Tackles are for loss. 3 point plays are fumble recoveries, forced fumbles, safeties, blocked kicks, and pass deflections. And then 6 point plays are IDP touchdowns, sacks, and interceptions. So that is the IDP 123 scoring. When we go to the leaderboard, which is what we're going to start with, that's what all the points, they are rounded up to just be whole numbers to fit the graphics, but you get the idea. So that's IDP 123 scoring. We'll go through the leaderboard. We'll start with the defensive line. Then we will go to the linebackers, defensive backs, and then we'll get through everything else. I'll tell you how the season's looking. So right now on defensive line, the leader is TJ Watt on the season. No surprise there for me. Hey, if you're watching this video, look at this. This is my man right here, TJ Watt, Steelers fan. Not saying it's because, it's not causation, not correlation, but TJ Watt got that juice. 226 points. Okay, TJ Watt, 226 points. He's in my defensive line section because I play predominantly on Sleeper. And looking forward, I honestly think that a lot of people are going to move to Sleeper. No shade on MFL, but it's just, I think that's where the world's going. That's where I play most of my leagues at, and that's TJ Watt should be. If he's an edge, if he's on a platform, it's edge designated or defensive line designated. He's the number one defensive line player. 226 points. Number two, this might blow your mind, is Jason Pierre-Paul with 190 points. So TJ Watt's got a 36-point jump on the number two position at defensive line. If you listen to me at all in the offseason, I have a podcast in my Defense Matters. If you follow me on Twitter, I've been standing so hard for TJ Watt since I came into the IDP scene. It's unreal. Most IDP content creators have been fading him the past couple of years because it's an outside linebacker most traditionally. But even as an outside linebacker, he's linebacker 3 on the season. So I've never really understood that narrative. But anyway, moving on. Jason Pierre-Paul is number 2. He's got 190 points. Like I said, that's 36 points behind TJ Watt. TJ Watt right now is like total game winner. Zadarius Smith coming in at number 4. He's got 182 points. Aaron Donald's coming in at 4th, 165. So the drop off between Aaron Donald and TJ Watt is, just 60 points. So yeah, there's that. IDP defensive player of the year right now is probably TJ Watt, in my opinion. Rookie, I think he should be defensive player of the year in the actual NFL. We'll see. They seem to love to just give that thing to Aaron Donald for some reason. Tough luck if TJ Watt doesn't get this season, in my opinion. But Aaron Donald, 165. Right behind him, Shaq Barrett, another Tampa Bay guy. We got him at 162 points. And then this is a real kind of surprise. We got Harold Landry coming in at Number 6, 160 points, just 5 behind Aaron Donald. Only 4.5 sacks on the season. Now you're wondering, how is Harold Landry in the conversation with some of these guys that are just sack machine? TJ Watt, all the guys I've mentioned before, you know them because they easily hit double-digit sacks in a 16-game season. Barrett hit 19 last year. TJ Watt 14. Jason Pierre-Paul, I think he had 9 or 10, but he only played like 10 games last year. And then Zadarius Smith had like 14. Aaron Donald, he's hit double digits last couple of years as well. I think he had 11 last year. But Harold Landry, 4.5. How is he up here? He's up here because he's an impact player. He makes tackles for loss. I believe he has 8 on the season right now. It's 7 or 8 on the season, behind the line of scrimmage play, impact play, 2-point play, stacks with the solo tackle. So net 4-point play. Got a lot of those. Got a lot of pass deflections. I believe he's got 6 pass deflections now on the season. Just for some context on a pass deflection, it's a 3-point play, half of a sack. Just for some perspective on Harold Landry's, pass deflection production, like I say, he's at 5 right now through 12 games. I think he's only played 11 or 12 games. Joey Bosa, in his 5-year NFL career, has 2 pass deflections. One of them came last week, week 12, his monster week 12. He had 58 points. So in 5 seasons, Joey Bosa has 1 pass deflection. That's an impact play. That's when I'm looking at IDP players, I'm not just looking at sacks and tackles. That's just, it's not enough for me. There's so much more that happens on the field that makes a difference. That's a great place to start, but you have to look at the auxiliary stats. You have to really find, ways to hedge and ways to win. Harold Landry with the pass deflections, like I said, he has 6. Again, Joey Bosa has 2 in the last 5 years. So he's getting you points in a way that Joey Bosa doesn't. Sure, it's not as fancy as a sack, but 2 of those is a sack. He's got 5 on the season. Joey Bosa has only got 1, and he's only got 2 in his 5-year career. So those things add up. That's how Harold Landry's up here. Not necessarily a big sack guy for a defensive line player. He does have a lot of solo tackles. He plays a lot of snaps. He's basically discount TJ Watt because he does things all over the field and he plays a ton of snaps. He's playing like 90% of snaps, something like that. So for an edge rusher, there's a small elite handful of guys that get that kind of snap numbers. One of them is right behind him, Myles Garrett. Oh my gosh, Harold Landry has more points than Myles Garrett. Yeah, he does. That's a real thing. Myles Garrett, 157 points. Brandon Graham, 156. Brian Burns, a guy I wrote about in my rookie rusher recap series last season. Brian Burns, the player I said was probably, had a good chance to break out this year. I like what I saw from him last year. He was efficient on snaps that he played. I knew he would see an uptick in snaps because he was good. He did have a little bit of injury thing last year. 153 points. He's doing great. JJ Watt, 153 points. Another guy who is putting himself into the top 12 at linebacker or defensive line. And I think he's only got 4 sacks in the season as well. Why? Pass deflections, tackles for loss. He makes impact plays in other spots. Just because he can't get to the quarterback does not mean this defensive line player is not an impact player. I think he has 4 or 5 pass deflections just over the last 2 weeks. One of them he got an interception in house for a pick 6 on Thanksgiving. So, again, it doesn't just have to be sacks. You have to look at auxiliary stats, and impact players is what I call them. Guys who don't just have to have sacks and tackles. Joey Watt is the epitome of a non-impact player. He does have a lot of tackles for loss. He does have a lot of sacks, but he doesn't really do a lot as far as pass deflections go. And forced fumbles even doesn't have a lot of those in his career. Guys like TJ Watt, JJ Watt, they're a little bit more prone to be disruptive like that. So that's a way you can get an edge over, some of your league mates, maybe if you look at these auxiliary stats with a discerning eye. Emmanuel Ogbah, this is another surprise on the season right now, 151 points. Joey Bosa, who I've been talking about, 151 points as well. Khalil Mack, 148, and then Bradley Chubb with 141. A lot of people have seen kind of like, oh, Bradley Chubb's not having a good year. Bradley Chubb sucks. Bradley Chubb's not what we wanted. He's a top 15 defensive line player. Coming off an ACL tear. What do you want from the guy? That's my question. What did you expect from him? I don't think anybody expected him to finish top 5. I think there's a very small portion of Broncos fans that maybe thought he would finish in the top 10. But to even be in the top 15 right now is pretty impressive in my opinion. So don't sleep on Bradley Chubb, y'all. If somebody in your league is still not really aware of what he's doing, again, coming off the injury, and he hasn't even really had very many pop games. He's just consistently putting up numbers. So don't fade Bradley Chubb. That's the leaderboard right now for IDP 1, 2, 3 defensive line players. I'll read them back to you one more time. We got TJ Watt, Jason Pierre-Paul, Zadarius Smith, Aaron Donald, Shaq Barrett, Harold Landry, and Myles Garrett. first 7, and then Brandon Graham, Ryan Burns, J.J. Watt, Emmanuel Ogbah, Joey Bosa, Khalil Mack, and then Bradley Chubb finishing out the top 14. So that is your defensive line leaderboard right now. Let's hop on over to the linebackers, check in with those fellas. Right now, leading the way is Devin White with 249 points. He's an impact player. That was something I kind of held against him in the offseason this year, because he did finish half decent in 2019 playing minimal games. He got injured early on, but he finished very high because he did have a lot of impact plays, big plays. And I was like, I don't know if he's an impact player. I don't know if this is just kind of the disruptive defense he's on, or if that's something he's going to do consistently. So I wasn't super duper high on him coming this season, but whoa, boy, was I wrong. I mean, he is an impact player. What we saw his rookie season, where he had 100 and something odd fumble recovery yards, had a couple of touchdowns, he had almost 100 tackles, and I think maybe just a little over 100 tackles in 11, 12 games. He's all that. So Devin White has put himself up there right now. Number 2 guy is Roquan Smith, 233 points. He's got over, 10 points over him. Eric Kendricks coming in at number 3. This one kind of caught me off guard, but honestly, Eric Kendricks is a guy last year that was playing really, really well to start the season. He slowed off a little bit towards the end, so he didn't finish in the top 8 or 9. But early in the season, he was doing really well. Right now, we're in week 12. He's in the top 3 guy. He doesn't seem to have lost a step necessarily. He did have a down week a week or two ago, but the floor is definitely intact as far as tackles. He has a very high tackle floor, and he is somewhat of an impact player. Not as many of his points are coming from impact plays, but he's still an impact player. He's got a couple of interceptions this season, a couple of pass deflections. I think he had the second most pass deflections in the league last year at linebacker, if I'm not mistaken. He and Demario Davis, I believe, were the leaders there. You'll have to vet me on that. Levante David comes in at 4, 218 points. Bobby Wagner, 218 points. Zach Cunningham, 214 points. Blake Martinez, 212 points. Honestly, that's the usual suspects right there. Levante David, Bobby Wagner, Zach Cunningham, Blake Martinez. Here's a guy, didn't really expect at this point in the season to be here, honestly. I had him ranked in the season coming in, I think, at 18. Deion Jones, linebacker, 8 right now, 202 points. If you go check out my Twitter, I posted something about this, kind of breaking down his IDP 1, 2, 3 scoring for the season, for the year, kind of where he was at, how he got there. It's interesting. He's currently pacing for under 100 tackles. And you say, wow, how does a guy who's pacing for 98 tackles end up in the top 8? Impact plays. Again, here we are with these impact plays. Deion Jones is right now, he has 5 pass deflections on the season, and he has 8 tackles for loss, which matches what he had all last season in 16 games, and that's just through 11 games this season. So he's already matching big numbers on his impact plays. Pass deflections are at 5. Like I said, he's already pretty high in that department. He had an interception. He's had a touchdown that did give him a little boost, but he got him. He's an impact player. So for a guy that's pacing for less than 100 tackles, he seems to be able to hold his own in those other departments. Behind the line of scrimmage, upside seems to be there. He's got some coverage equity, so you like to see that. And yeah, he's going to finish probably the season, unless he has a monster game, under 100 tackles and still put his name in the top 10. Why? Because he's an impact player. Now, if you're playing in a generic tackle-heavy league, I don't know what Deion Jones is currently ranked at. It's probably pretty low. I mean, it's pretty hard to even finish in the top 20 in just a very basic tackle league, but we don't advocate for that around here. We're IDP 1, 2, 3 people, and so that's why Deion Jones is where he is, because he's making the plays on the field. It's not just about the tackles. Jalen Smith coming in at number 9, 200 points. Eric Wilson coming in at 10, 196 points. Like I said, guys, go check out my Twitter, scroll down my timeline, or search the hashtag IDP123. I usually tag all my breakdowns with the IDP123 hashtag. If you are on Twitter, check that out. A lot of that stuff is me. There's a couple other guys that use that tag, but you'll know my stuff when you see it. And then Demario Davis, 188. Jamie Collins, 180. Don't say I didn't tell you Jamie Collins was going to put up some numbers this year. And then Foyesade Olakun, and then Darius Leonard, a guy who has missed time this year, started out slow, has come on hot here at the end, put himself into the top 15. It's a lot like last year where he missed 2 games and still finished as in the top 3 at linebacker. By the end of the season, Darius Leonard, it would not shock me if he was comfortably in the top 10, just because that's the kind of player he is. He has a high tackle floor, and he's an impact player. Just Deion Jones on steroids, basically. So don't want to go too much into detail. You can see, again, if you follow me on Twitter, the IDP123 hashtag. We're going to do a breakdown here in a couple of weeks on the channel of the leaderboard of the season. And I will break down exactly for you how all the top players scored their points. I'll show you what percentage were impact plays, what percentage were tackles, what percentage were solo compared to assisted tackles. All that stuff will be available to you guys on the channel to see. I've got some cool stuff in the works for you. So right now I'm just going to show you the leaderboard, but when the season's over, we're going to be able to dig in a lot, and we'll be able to see kind of, how these guys made their hay this season, and maybe look for some outliers, maybe look for some guys who scored similarly, and just kind of compare that to even to 19, some of the players. One of my favorite player profiles from 2019 to look at IDP 123 was Jamie Collins. Why? Another guy that didn't even have close to 100 tackles. He was a top linebacker. Why? Impact player. Gets sacks, gets used a lot. Oh my gosh, he's only playing 78% of the snaps. Okay, Mr. Cool Guy, chill. Okay, like if he's in high leverage situations for his defensive coordinator, doesn't matter if he's playing a lot of snaps or not. If he's playing the right snaps and he's getting home, you can finish in the top. So Eric Wilson actually has a really similar profile to Jamie Collins 2019. So is Deion Jones. No, only a handful of guys finish the season as a top guy with under 50% of their points scored in solo tackles. Those are my impact players. So reading back the list off to you again: Devin White 249, Roquan Smith 233, Eric Kendricks 221, Levante David 218, Bobby Wagner 218, Zach Cunningham 214, Blake Martinez 212, Deion Jones 202, Jalen Smith 200, Eric Wilson 196, Demario Davis 188, Jamie Collins 180 points, Foy Said Olakun 178, and then Darius Leonard with 178 points. Those are the current through 12-week linebacker leaderboard guys. And let's turn our attention to the defensive backs. Number one on the season, dethroning the king from last quarter, Budda Baker. We have Jordan Poyer, 216 points on the season. Rock solid, steady player coming to the season. If you pay attention to football, you know who Jordan Poyer is. Budda Baker, number 2, 216 points. Jeremy Chin, number 3 right now, 189 points. Woo! Jeremy Chin had a hot week in week 12. Monster game, 2 fumble recoveries for touchdowns. I think he had like 13 tackles. A lot of fumble recovery yards, I think like 45, 50. Just an absolute game wrecker week for him. He's a playmaker. He is everything. He's everything we thought Isaiah Simmons would be, essentially. They were comped a little bit coming out of the draft as similar type players with similar skill sets and similar profiles physically. And Jeremy Chin's been given the position since day one, and he has run with it. And that all culminated in a monster week 12. Check the tape. You know who Jeremy Chin is now. If you're watching the show and you didn't know last time we were talking, I promise you know who Jeremy Chin is now. 189 points. Jesse Bates, 189 points right behind him. Justin Simmons, 183. Malcolm Butler, 181. Carlton Davis, 176. Malcolm Butler seems to be getting some of that Logan Ryan love, getting picked on a little bit. So that's good for IDP. Daniel Sorensen, 172 points. That's kind of a big surprise this season to see Daniel Sorensen, not Juan Thornhill or Tyrann Mathieu, as the representative for the Chiefs at the defensive back position. Logan Ryan himself, 169 points, doing very well with the New York Giants. I know a lot of people are like, oh, when he didn't get signed, they're like, yeah, he sucks. He'll never get signed. He got signed. And he's playing football, and that defense isn't too bad. So I think Logan Ryan gets a little bit more hell than he probably deserves. Von Bell, 165 points, started off slow on the season, but he has really been putting out steady production, and that's put his name up there at the top of this list. Malcolm Jenkins, 164. Jabril Peppers, after starting the season abysmally, like we're talking abysmally, I think he had like 22 points through the first 4 weeks, and then he had an injury. He has had his last 4 games have been pretty incredible. Let's see here. Since week 7, 20.4, week 8, 26.1, week 9, 28.6, week 10, 25.7, and then week 17, 17.8. So he's basically been averaging about 24, 25 points a week since week 7. That's huge. The 2 weeks before that, he was a little low. He had a 10, 11. But again, like he's completely crushing his early start to the season. And he's put himself into the top 15 defensive backs after, essentially being completely written off by people to start the season. I was really big on him coming into the year. I really am bummed that he started off so slow, but I'm also extremely excited that he's been able to push his way up this list, because he is who I thought he would be. And he is who we thought he would be coming out when he got drafted. I know he had his issues with the Browns, but he is he is every bit the playmaker he was coming out of college. I think he's just had kind of a tough shake of things. Xavier Howard comes in at number 13, 158 points. And Marlon Humphrey coming in 157. Marlon Humphrey did miss a week because of COVID. Still up here in the top. And currently, Marlon Humphrey leads the NFL. After 12 weeks, Marlon Humphrey leads the NFL in forced fumbles. He has 6 forced fumbles on the season. He's missed a week. And the guys in second place are Aaron Donald and Myles Garrett. They each have 4. So you're talking about a defensive back who did just get paid. Good for him. Is out here causing some pretty disruptive plays on a pretty regular basis. So you don't have 6 forced fumbles at defensive back on accident. Marcus Peters doesn't have multiple interceptions a year on accident. You don't just get lucky. These are skills. And these are things these guys have been honing in on, and he's having a really good year at it. Which, to kind of go back a little bit, TJ Watt and Chandler Jones last year, they both led the league in forced fumbles. Chandler Jones, obviously, or RIP, my guy, he's gone. Not like dead, but he's for the season, he's gone. TJ Watt doesn't have a forced fumble right now. Kind of weird to me. I think the kind of law of averages is catching out to him after having a monster year last year. He is a disruptive player. It's pretty he does get forced fumbles on a pretty regular basis. But with the guys in second place only having 4, there's still a chance TJ Watt can end the season with 3 or 4 forced fumbles. We got 5 weeks ahead of us, 6 weeks ahead of us right now. So I wouldn't shock me if he has a couple. But I think at this point, Marlon Humphrey, just the way he's been playing, he'll probably get another one before the season's over. I wouldn't be shocked if Marlon Humphrey leads the league in forced fumbles by the time it's all said and done. So quickly, I will read the defensive backs back to you all. We have Jordan Poyer, Budda Baker, Jeremy Chin, Jesse Bates, Justin Simmons, Malcolm Butler, Carlton Davis, Daniel Sorensen, Logan Ryan, Von Bell, Malcolm Jenkins, Jabril Peppers, Xavier Howard, and Marlon Humphreys as our leaderboard players through 12 weeks at defensive back. So next, we'll do the injuries next. I don't want to end on a sad note, so we'll put it right here in the middle. Injuries, we have a few guys that are a little bit banged up right now. Jeff Okudah, rookie corner, shoulder injury. Carlos Dunlap, who I will talk about soon as a trending up player, did hurt his foot a little foot soreness after this last week, but honestly, I don't think it's really going to bother him. We'll see. Akeem Hicks did sit out of last week with a hamstring issue. If you're in DT specifically, you might want to check into that. He was doing pretty good as a just overall defensive line to start the season, but he's been tapering off slowly, unfortunately. We did have some IR moves as well. Xavier McKinney activated from the IR. Love to see that. He should be taking over as one of the safeties probably next year as the actual takeover. I'm still rolling. Logan Ryan and Jabril Peppers are still their starters there right now. And they're easing him back in. I believe he only played 5, 6, 7 snaps his first week back. But he has been activated, rookie defensive back that very high on. So happy to see that. Excited to see what he can do down the stretch here for this team. Matt Milano was activated from the IR. He's been struggling with injuries all season. Shoulder, pec. He's been a mess. Great player. Hope that he can do some damage down the stretch here, but I'm a little tentative to put him into my lineup till I see him go out there and play a full game and be productive. And at this point in the season, he only got so many weeks left that he can even squeeze his way into my lineup. So he better do it quick. Von Miller still on IR. I heard some rumblings in the bushes that maybe he's going to try to make his return before the season's over. So Broncos fans, maybe y'all excited about that. Taylor Rapp is back on IR. I think he has a knee injury. Jordan Fuller's been playing well with him. They've been back and forth all season. Just whoever's playing between Taylor Rapp and Jordan Fuller should be in your lineup. They've been really good. Ronnie Harrison, this is kind of a bummer. He had a knee injury and a shoulder injury and then a knee injury, and now he's on IR. He had a couple of really big games kind of early in the season when pretty much nobody was playing him. Popped, got hurt. He left 2 games early. Now he's on IR. It's a bummer. And then Kyler Fackrell, he is back on the IR for the New York Giants as well. And then we haven't really lost a lot of guys to injury, knock on wood, since last time we spoke. The 2 main ones are Jayon Brown, linebacker for the Tennessee Titans. He did dislocate and fracture his elbow. Super sucks. He's a great linebacker. He's one of the best IDP linebackers in the league. He's one of the best linebackers in the league, really. He's out for the rest of the season. And then Bud Dupree yesterday against the Ravens, non-contact injury. We got confirmation today. It is a torn ACL. He's done for the season. He's playing on the tag. That sucks. He was having a great season. Alex Highsmith, has a rookie there. He should probably slot in, get some more work. Bud Dupree, I don't know if they're going to tag him again next year. I don't know. He was playing good. ACL is a very common sports injury. He hasn't really struggled with injuries in the last year or two, so I'm not overly concerned. It does hurt his money making upside a little bit, but this Steelers team is hot. I hope they go win that Super Bowl. And they got to get through my Chiefies to get there, though. But I wouldn't mind seeing the black and yellow hold that trophy up. So I'd still like to see the Chiefs do it too, though. But Bud Dupree, rest up, man. We'll miss you. That's pretty much it for all the major kind of injury updates. Like I said, early in the season, we got the Reaper was out, but it slowed off a little bit. Like I said, knock on wood if you're nearby any. So let's go ahead and talk about the players that are trending up, kind of some of the guys that maybe you're going to be looking at in the playoffs that you didn't think you would be looking at to play every week. And then I'll get you all out of here pretty quick today. Carlos Dunlap is my number one defensive line player that's trending up for me. Since moving to Seattle, he has 3 sacks. He had only had 1 all season up into the first 8 weeks of the season with Cincinnati. So I've in the playing time is early in the season with Cincinnati, it was plenty high, but it's hovering right around 50 snaps right now for Seattle. But what I really like about him is I'm not a big matchup guy necessarily, but he does have some nice matchups in the playoffs here. He's got the Jets in week 14. He's got Washington in week 15. Seattle should be able to put up some numbers on these teams, and he should be able to, do his pass rush thing. I expect him to get home. The Giants this week too, week 13 is not quite the playoffs, but man, they got a backup quarterback coming out. Daniel Jones is a little busted up. So Carlos Dunlap is a guy that's trending up. I think I could see him. I imagine he's going to be on a lot of championship rosters when it's all said and done, because he's one of those guys. It's just a cheap asset, easy to add in your drafts, easy to acquire probably on some waivers after a couple of down weeks or mid-season. People thought he was completely washed, thought he was done. He's disgruntled on Twitter. Buy the FUD. That's fear, uncertainty, and doubt. If there is fear, uncertainty, and doubt with an IDP fantasy football commodity, that's the time to buy. If you can cut through the psychological hurdles of looking at a guy and being like, wow, like the last 3 weeks, he's been a total disaster. And you can say, oh, yeah, but he's had like 8 years of not being a total disaster. And you can get to that point and see what's there available to you. Take that shot, And so, like I said, 19 total tackles on the season right now for Carlos Dunlap, 4.5 sacks. 3 of those have come. 3.5 of those have come since joining the Seahawks in week 8. And then 7 tackles for loss. Still 7 tackles for loss is a pretty big deal. So you love that. Deion Jones, I brought him up earlier. 45 solos, 8.5 tackles for loss, 6 pass deflections. Those are already exceeding his 2019 numbers. He's trending the right way as a playmaker this season. I brought him up earlier, like I said. Alex Singleton, 40 solos on the season, 3.5 tackles for loss. He's had 2 really big weeks this past quarter with a number 1 overall finish included. I believe that was week 11. So Alex Singleton seems to kind of be taking over there with the Eagles at linebacker. Their linebacker situation has been less than stellar for a couple of years now. But Alex Singleton has kind of emerged and seems to have kind of a stranglehold on this job, I imagine. I don't see how they're going to give it back to Nate Gary when he comes back, but we'll have to monitor that. But Alex Singleton's a guy you can play right now pretty confidently every week. Isaiah Simmons is trending up. His playing time has come up past couple of weeks. He did have a pretty big performance. I believe that was week 11 as well. I think he was like the number 2 linebacker on the week. And so he's got 28 solo tackles so far, 4.5 tackles lost for 2 sacks. For a guy who hasn't had much playing time, he's doing some things out there. So he did have that big week. Like I said, check out the article. I do highlight these guys a little bit more on when this stuff happened and what I'm seeing out there. Daniel Sorensen, like I said, big surprise. 3 pass deflections, 3 interceptions, 2 tackles for loss. There's 8 impact plays right there. Not even counting any forced fumbles or anything like that he has. 52 solos. He's also taken 1 back to the house for a touchdown. Ashton Davis, he's a name that's kind of hot in the IDP world. I have him in the trending up section, but honestly, he's only got 20 solos on the season, 1 tackle for loss, 1 fumble recovery. His snaps have been coming up the past couple of weeks, which you like to see, but The upside is there. He's a guy, I say trending up because he's getting more playing time. So the upside is available to him. We'll have to see if he can really come through with it. You can probably play him as a DB2, DB3 right now. I wouldn't go trade the farm for him or anything. And I mean, we don't even know if he's going to really pan out right now. I know that his name, if you are involved in the IDP world, narrative conversation, as you will, you probably know who Ashton Davis is. If you're a Jets fan, gosh, those people, I mean, you know who Ashton Davis is because you're obsessed with your team, even though it's not that great. Sorry, Jets fans, don't hate me. All right, Cameron Curl, another guy's trending up. He's been filling in for Landon Collins, who we lost to IR with an Achilles tear. 34 solos, 4.5 tackles for loss, 2 sacks since last time we spoke. That's big. That's big money right there. So Cameron Curl is playing very well in that spot for Landon Collins. Maybe a little better than Landon Collins was playing for an IDP perspective. So he's a guy that if he's still available to you out there, or if he's on your bench and you're not sure if you should play him, we've come to a point in the season where you can trust him. And you can trust him to be on the field, and you can trust the snaps, and you can trust the upside, what he has to do. So yeah, just to review, Carlos Dunlap could be a playoff monster for y'all. After a very slow start to the season, Isaiah Simmons, we're looking at a potential breakout here down the stretch. So if you still have him, you should be rocking him. If you are on Sleeper, as I said earlier, he's actually one of the very rare kind of Konami codes of IDP where he is defensive line and linebacker eligible, but he's not a pass rushing like outside linebacker. He's more of a tackling kind of weak side middle linebacker. So you're going to be able to pad that defensive line spot with not only a very solid tackle floor, assuming the snaps hold up, but he also is a playmaker. I mean, 2 sacks, 4.5 tackles for loss, and just minimal snaps on the season so far. That's a big deal. So love to see that for him. And like I said, Daniel Sorensen, he's kind of a do-it-all defensive back one. I mean, it's going to feel weird playing him like a defensive back one, but in reality, he's been putting up defensive back one numbers. He had a down week this last week, but I'm still rocking with Daniel Sorensen. He's the defensive back you want to be playing from the Kansas City Chiefs. So that is the end of the trending up section. I don't really have any trending down sections right now. Y'all know who's not doing well. You're probably very keenly aware of that, probably more so than who's doing good for you, because you notice that stuff. Also wanted to quickly bring up Kerry Hyder. Earlier on the season, he was coming on hot. He had a good game this last week. I still think he's a guy you can, as like an IDP flex option, maybe a DL2, low-end DL2, DL3. He did have a really good week this last week, and there's always that chance for a pop with the San Francisco line. I know they haven't been good this year necessarily. They have not put up the same kind of production across the board they did last year, but that'll happen when you lose, an all-pro guy like DeForest Buckner, and you lose, the chosen one, Nick Bosa. So they're doing the best they can. Just wanted to bring up Kerry Hyder because he did show up again this last week, got home on a couple of sacks. And 49ers have a big following. Don't want to, make them feel too left out. So we see you, Kerry Hyder. Good out there. Or I don't know if I can say it on the channel. Whoops. Good bleep out there. I don't know. Do they cuss on the show? I listen to Dynasty. I don't know if they cuss a lot or not. They probably don't. They probably do. They talk about balls enough. Anyway. All right. So Nerd Herd. That's pretty much all I got for you today. Leave comments, what you agreed with, what you didn't agree with, what you like, what are your thoughts. Any questions you have for me, I will do my best to get in here and answer them. I'll probably answer them under my personal YouTube account. That's, I usually comment on stuff with that. There's no content on that channel or anything. But appreciate y'all. Appreciate you tuning into the show. Like I said, subscribe to the channel, share. I will do a year-end, my next quarterly report. This has been, every 4 weeks I've done one. This is at the end. I'm going to probably wait for the next one until the season is over so we can do kind of a recap, a culmination of the whole season. Maybe we'll do a short one talking about, playoff heroes, week winners and, championship week, what we liked, what we didn't like. I don't know. We'll see what's up. But now that the first few episodes of the show have been, are on air, the format's going to be wide open down the stretch here. I mean, we can do short videos, we can do long videos. Let me know what you all want to hear. Nerd Herd, IDP Army, what are you interested in? I know a very hot topic in IDP is trade values and trade topics. I'm going to do a show. I'm going to have something specific for this channel that's going to be a trade show. It's going to just basically be a trade discussion show. I'm going to maybe try to do that once a month. Get on here and just focus solely on trade talk. So if you have any questions about, player values and stuff like that, you can bring that up in the comments. You can DM me on Twitter. You can DM the Dynasty Nerds account. They'll push that stuff to me, and then we'll sift through that together and get you your best answer possible. The Dynasty GM, if you are not signed up with the Nerd Herd, you are making a huge mistake. Do it. It's cheap and it's powerful, and it tells you so much good information. It's unreal. It curates so much good stuff for you based on all your leagues. I mean, it's basically priceless. We put a price on it. It's not that much, but it's basically priceless as far as an asset for your Dynasty game. Get on that. We will be adding IDP information to it soon, I promise. Listen, I know, I put a lot of content out. I'm always hustling. I'm always putting stuff out. You would think I had an army of people behind me. I don't. It's just me. A lot of the stuff I do is just me, as far as curating information, as far as designing stuff, as far as putting content out, as far as recording, as far as, a lot of that stuff I do. And on the back end too, like, more meta stuff, like getting trade values in and getting stuff for the Dynasty GM set up so that we do have good, accurate information in that Dynasty GM that's relevant to your league under an understood scoring format, so you can see player values. That's coming. We're working on that. I'm diligently working on that. Right here to the left of me on my whiteboard, there are multiple columns of players' names, color coded. We're talking first round picks, who's worth a first plus, who's worth multiple seconds. I mean, we're going to get you all sorted out. Dynasty Nerds has got your back in the IDP world. Appreciate y'all. Like I said, hit me up. Appreciate the Nerd Herd. Appreciate all the IDP army. And I'll be back in a few weeks to drop some more IDP heat on y'all. So take care, get in the playoffs, and most importantly, go win.